And yes, we are a landscape company, but this applies to really anyone. You want to build a deck, put an addition on, get new flooring, just some helpful things that I found along the way. There are a lot of lists out there that explain some things you should look at. And so this is going to expand upon that and make it a little more specific to our region, our state, but also it can be broadly applied. So first, how did you hear about them? Was it somebody who knows a guy who remembers him from high school but hasn't really actually used him? Or are we talking to somebody who has actually had the work done, who's gone through the experience and really highly recommends them and is somebody that you trust as a source for a good lead for a contractor? How long has this company been in business? So according to the Small Business Administration, at least 80% of businesses are going to not survive the first 5 years. And then to even make it to the next 5 years, it's pretty rare. And I don't know about other contracting per se, but for landscaping, we're second to restaurants in the failure rate. So if you take a look around, especially every spring, I notice a new crop of landscapers out there. And some of the names that I used to see, I don't really see as much anymore. So there's definitely a lot of turnover there. How do they learn about their trade or craft? Did some guy show them what to do and that might not have been a good resource? Or did they seek out a formal education? So specifically in landscape contracting, you can go to school, place like Penn State, to become a landscape contractor. But by and large, there's no official education program, apprenticeship, something like that, like there might be for the mason refield or for carpentry. So there are other places to look, like trade schools or associations, but also vendors will offer seminars. So the ICPI and NCMA, specific to our field, are two big names that set forth the standards based on research and recommendations by engineers. And they have so many specs for all aspects of walls and patios and in different applications. And so they put together some coursework as well. So, I've heard of guys who think it's cool, want to start building walls or laying pavers, and they buy a machine and then they are on the hunt for someone who knows how to help them install it. And so I think in that brings me to the next point. Distinguish between confidence and competence. So if somebody, especially, maybe a younger guy who's getting started, is really optimistic, might be confident that he knows how to do something and can do it for you. But does he have the experience? Does he have the skill set to do it? So distinguish between confidence and competence. Are they appropriately licensed? And so with something like a plumber or HVAC, they have other regulations. With landscape contracting, we have the registration with the state. That's pretty much it. So if you've ever seen a PAID number, that comes from the PA Home Improvement Consumer Protection Act. It's been around for several years. Some of the main points are that if you are a business that is performing home improvements of any kind, you need to register with the state and get that PAID number. You can look up a business, even if you go and look at the Attorney General's site, they will specify that does not give you the integrity of the contractor or, speak about the quality of their work. It simply means that they're following the rules and they're appropriately insured for what they're doing. So they must have a written contract in place with you before engaging in work. Only 1/3 or up to 1/3 of the project price can be taken in advance as a deposit. And then after the contract is signed, you have a 3-day waiting period to abide by, just to put the contract in place if there's any questions or maybe some doubt about moving forward. Will they use the right materials for the job? And so speaking from my experience in this field, just something as simple as, or seemingly simple as the rock here. You can see on the left, river gravel, it's rounded, more suited for something like a French drain, and to put it around the pipe in that trench. And on the right side, we have number 57 stone. You can just see how angular it is. This is the stuff that is used behind the wall for drainage, sometimes for base of a patio if it's an open grade for drainage there. In any event, the angular pieces are preferred and necessary because they will interlock. They'll kind of hold together so that there's not a lot of migration of the material. So if you have somebody who's putting a wall together and they want to use the river gravel, the stuff on the left, behind there for drainage, that's not the appropriate material for what they're trying to do. Again, it goes back to, are they competent with what they're installing? Will they dig by hand or use some other kind of hand technique when you could use machinery? And again, I'm speaking specifically to landscaping, but in a broader sense, are they going to use the right tools for the job? Looking at the picture on the left and that shovel, not a whole lot of dirt you can move in a short period of time. The track loader on the right, by and large, is going to move way faster, move way more material, and doesn't fatigue. So when you have people installing things and they're using manpower over machinery, this can lead to a tendency to skimp on the scope. So if you need 12 inches of drainage behind a wall, some guys might not get that far because that's a lot of extra digging if you're only using a shovel or base material for a wall. You need at least 6 inches, and then you're burying 6 inches of block. 12-inch trench by 2 foot wide, that's a lot of digging. It unless you absolutely can't fit a machine in that space to do it, it really should take the proper machinery to make sure that fatigue doesn't happen and then there's a tendency to cut corners. The bottom is just an illustration of, you get one triaxle of materials, and even a small job, you can end up taking out at least, that 22 ton that you see in that pile. That's a significant pile for someone who's trying to move it all by themselves by hand, or, use a few guys and they're only working with a shovel. Perform a background check. I have an app on my phone, and you can go into the App Store, Google Play, or wherever you get your apps for your phone, and find PAE docket. That little square is what the app looks like. Download it on your phone. Look up anyone so you can have fun with it if you want. But if you want to look up the contractor or anyone who works for them, see if there's a criminal background, it gives you any kind of minor violations or criminal activity that you can find. Lead generation websites like Angie's List have started doing background checks. They make it a requirement if you want to be listed, which is great. It falls a little short because it's only doing a check for the business owner and not the individual people that aren't going to be on site. So, drug testing and background checks are really important for anyone to let on your property. Requesting examples of past work or professional references. This isn't uncommon. I would say the biggest question to ask a former client of that contractor is, would you hire them again? Was the experience positive enough that you would have that relationship to continue? Vendors are something that most people probably haven't thought about. So if you find out the vendors that a contractor uses and you see if they actually pay their bills and pay them on time, that is huge. It not only tells you about them personally, it also protects you as the homeowner. So in Pennsylvania, I don't know what it's like in other states, if project materials are purchased for your home and the contractor doesn't pay, it doesn't really make a difference. The vendor can still come after you personally because it's for your project. So it's really important to know how they're going to handle those materials and your money or it could come back to bite you. Are they properly insured? General liabilities, in a lot of cases, the states, the minimums are pretty small. I think in Pennsylvania it's about 300,000. So I mean, think about this: if somebody and negligently hit a gas line, cause an explosion, is that going to be enough to repair the damage? If it's, maybe it hurts your home and your neighbor's home, so it doesn't go too far. A million, 2 million. The baseline for insurance, it kind of is what it is. And so adding that extra coverage isn't that big of an expense, and it's going to make sure that everything's covered. Workers' comp is something that you want to make sure that they have on any of the employees that step on site. If the contractor is somebody who pays under the table, then they're not paying into unemployment, they're not doing workers' comp, and not paying taxes on that money. So that's something you want to check into. And also, if the owner of the company is performing work on your site, they aren't covered under workers' comp. So, and you're like in our instance, John is covered under general disability. So it's just covered all the time. If somebody falls and gets hurt and they're the owner of the company and they aren't covered, they're coming after you and your homeowner's insurance. The most important question, in my opinion, is, do you actually like this person? They're going to be in your home or at least on your property, even if it's a small job, even if it's the guy who comes and cuts your grass once a week, or they're just coming to paint or, put a deck, they're not going to be in your house, whatever it is, you want to make sure that you like them. And I think it's really important to take a look at the integrity of that contractor. So if you are not concerned about somebody who maybe pays their eyes under the table, or kind of wants to cheat the system and try to work around getting permits for something or something like that, or if it's okay to cheat in one area, what else are they going to cheat on? So just looking at their overall integrity. So if you get a really bad feeling about someone, even if all of those other things check out and they're reputable by all of their standards, if you don't like them, it's an awkward relationship to enter into, to not be comfortable with that person while they're at your home. So these are the ones that I've come up with that really stand out for me. Let me know anything else you can think of or questions you might have about where to find out some of this information. Maybe you have a suggestion of something you like to do when you're looking for a contractor, and just leave it in the comments. Thanks.